KLaatu, and he was just telling me some unfortunate music, unfortunate what's going on. But it's okay. I'll get everything working again.
Video. StreamYard or something.
We're on StreamYard, yeah.
Or something.
Or something. Always software that has issues, you know.
Somebody calling me?
Somebody's calling me, and they keep doing it. But that's okay. I want to talk a little bit about your, how you upbringing. You started out in music. Terry, you were implemented in a band of KLaatu. You were also a great musician, but by yourself. How did you start out in music? What did you do?
I got a very early crash course. I lived with my mom and dad, and I lived with my grandmother, and I shared a room with my Uncle Bill, who was 10 years older than me. And so when I was 5 or 6 years old, I'd come home from school, and he would come home from high school, I guess, at that point. And we would sit in our room and listen to his 78s. So, at the age of 6, I was extremely hip listening to Elvis and Little Richard, the Everly Brothers, and my personal favorite, Roy Orbison. In fact, on my 10th birthday, when I was 10 years old, my uncle came up to the house. We'd moved out then, and gave me the first LP I owned, which was Roy Orbison's Greatest Hits. And I was 10. But I also was listening to the radio a lot and collecting 45. So I had all the Beach Boy records and all of the Phil Spector girl group stuff. And I was a big fan of Gene Pitney. I got to see him live in the 80s. And that was magnificent. And all the Bobbies. How many Bobbies were there? Rydell, Curtola, Bobby Benton. There was Bobbies everywhere. and I collected records and listened to them with my friends. And, I was just a wee squirt. And then we all watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And it occurred to me at that moment that I could maybe play music and not just listen to it and collect it. And so I bought some drumsticks. And I wandered around the school and the neighborhood, tapping on anything, the telephone pole, my girlfriend, whatever was nearby, and eventually got a drum kit.
Wow, really? So you basically started out with drums, but then you went to other instruments, correct?
Yeah, I remember I went to see Led Zeppelin in the Village in Yorkville in Toronto. At the Rock Pile, somebody had told me about this hot new band coming from England. They didn't have a record out yet. The record came out about a week after the show. And it was that night watching them that I decided to quit the band I was in and put the drums aside. And I borrowed an acoustic guitar from a friend and a Beatles songbook. I could read music because I played trombone in high school. And there was little pictures of where to put your fingers on the fretboard to make the chords.
Right.
So I taught myself to play guitar and started writing songs. And then a couple of years later, I bought a piano. And it took me a long time to learn to play the piano because I'd never played it before. But now I play it every day. I haven't played guitar in ages. It's been years. I'll pick it up once in a while, but the piano is just, you can see everything. You can see all the interweaving of chord structures and stuff. It's just all right there. On the guitar, it's much more difficult to see visually. So the piano is my favorite instrument, and I play it every day, sometimes just for pleasure. But mostly I'm putzing around in the studio, working on something or other.
That's awesome. So your music, when you were in KLaatu, your combination of, you wrote a lot of songs too in there, didn't you?
Just a couple. John and Dee wrote the body, the most of the songs. They both had grade 8 piano and had been playing piano since they were, forced to as children take lessons. And so I was a late bloomer compared to them two. and they were very fine songwriters, and the competition was quite stiff. But John and I wrote Calling Occupants together, and when we did the last album, I had this song called December Dream, and John,
I love that.
he helped me write the chorus. We wrote the chorus together, and the rest of the song I already had in the bag there. So yeah, but they wrote most of the music.
So now we were talking about that. Are you surprised that there's still people that like your music?
No, not at all. Not at all. We worked with Terry Brown of Rush fame. It was his recording studio that we made the first 2 albums at. And the first album, we took 3 years to make that record because we used all downtime. When there was nobody, we'd go in at Friday night at 10 o'clock at night and work till dawn. And that's the way the record was made, you know. And then we'd come back the next week after sitting with what we did for a week and say, you know what, that maraca part just isn't right. Well, let's redo it. And so we had that kind of time forced upon us. It wasn't our choice. It's just the way it worked out using downtime. And so we had a great deal of objectivity about the album. And plus we were working with Terry Brown, who was state-of-the-art engineer. And we had all the state-of-the-art equipment. I remember the day he ordered the Eventide digital delay. And it was the first time we'd heard digital, not heard it, but had it. You know, everybody was using it like Elton John. Terry Brown used to go out once a month and buy a half a dozen albums from state-of-the-art artists just to hear what they were doing